What's up, guys? My name's Dean, or as most of you know me, Twisty, and it's time to preview. We're wrapping up on previewing. We're previewing round 11 of the AFL season. North Melbourne taking on Richmond. It's the first game tonight. Let's get stuck into it. Changes. We've got Mason Wood and Trent Dumont. The only real changes for this game. No changes for the Tigers side, but I do expect Majak Daw to come in for Todd Goldstein. I don't think Goldstein will play tonight. If he does, I will be very surprised, but I do expect Majak Daw to come in for this one. Down in Tassie, it's going to be freezing cold. Might slow the game up a little bit. Might work in the Tigers' favour. I think that they, while North Melbourne have won the last 7 there, they beat Richmond by, I think, 36 points last time they played down there a couple of years ago, back in 2014. This would have been prior to Richmond's 9-in-a-row run in 2014. I think that plenty of things have changed. Even since the elimination final, things have changed. And that's when, obviously, North Melbourne beat the Tigers in that elimination final by 17 points. And really, the only real win Richmond's got over North Melbourne over the past about 5 or 6 years is the one where they rested all their players. So, going to be an interesting one. I think the Tigers will win this game. Now, hear me out why. I think that, obviously, Goldstein, I don't think he's going to play. And Richmond got a 2-zip record against teams the year after. So, they lost to Carlton in the Elim final, beat them round 1 the next year. Lost to Port Adelaide in the Elim final, beat them over at Adelaide Oval the next year. So, I think that they might be a little bit of revenginess on their hands here. I know it's a third of the team is different, but I think that the Tigers are very much up to the challenge and that they're going to take down this North Melbourne side because they're probably, a little bit wary after last week. They might be a little bit on edge after their loss to Sydney last week, and who knows? They haven't been in the greatest of form. They only just beat Essendon 2 weeks ago, so they're definitely on a little bit of a slide. If Richmond can get them while they're still on that slide, then Richmond will get the chocolates tonight. I hope. I bloody hate North Melbourne. I hope we win. Next game is Hawthorn and Melbourne. Changes here. Daniel Howe and Stewart come in for Langford, who's being rested. And Spanger is out with the hamstring. Very sad story for Matty Spanger there. And for the D's, Sam Frost, Vandenberg. Trengove comes back in after 2 years out of football, 2 years and 8 rounds of football. Dawes comes in, Clayton Oliver comes in as well. Neil Bullen, Kennedy, Newton have been omitted. Garland is out with a cheekbone injury, and Viney is out with either a hand or suspended for the week or whatever. Both of those things. This is going to be another interesting match. I think that Hawthorn will definitely win this one. Obviously, I think Hawthorn were going to win this one. But Viney going out and Trengove coming in is, kind of a good thing for Melbourne. Trengove, he's been actually tearing it up in the VFL. So his contested ball numbers are through the roof, averaging 15 plus per game. So with 30 touches as well in the meantime. So he comes in for Viney, pretty much a like-for-like player. But Viney's just such a bull. Whether or not Trengove can regain that form that he had a couple of years ago when he was the captain of Melbourne, I think will be a difficult thing to do, but we'll wait and see how he goes into this. I think just the Hawks, they're too strong. Cyril is just a magical man at the moment, so the Hawks will get this one done. Over at the Etihad Stadium here, Carlton will be playing against the Brisbane Lions. Now, Carlton fans, don't get ahead of yourselves. You could be 7-5 here. You're currently 5-5. You play Brisbane this week. Who do you come up against next week? You play next week. Carlton plays against St Kilda next week. So you could be 7-5. If you win these next 2 games, Graham and Byrne come in. Mark Murphy goes out. That's a big out. And Sumner with the foot. So obviously those two were on the bench pretty much the whole game last week against the Cats. And for the Lions, Rockcliffe and Jansen comes in to make his debut for the Lions. And then Lester and Matheson come out for the Lions. But this is an intriguing clash because Brisbane have been playing some alright football. They took it up to Hawthorn for 3 quarters last week. Can they do it for 4 quarters this week against Carlton? And maybe pip them. Maybe they're a little bit ahead of themselves, Carlton. 5-5, even ledger. But I think if Carlton bring the same intensity that they brought last week to this week, they will be very difficult to beat. For a side that's not really, a top 8 side. And Brisbane, they will struggle to win this one if Carlton bring the pressure, bring the heat, and I like what Bolts is doing. He's making the players want it more and more and more. So that's definitely a thing. If they can keep that motivation up, who knows? Finals may be on the card. I don't want to say the F word too quickly, but There's a possibility, Carlton. I have looked at it. There is a possibility with your draw. Now let's go to Simmons Stadium. Twilight game. Geelong and the Giants. This is a real biggie too. Lincoln, McCarthy, Menzel and Ruggles come in. Murdoch, Smets, Gregson all been dropped for the Cats. And for the Great Western Sydney Giants, Phil Davis, huge in. Buntine, also big in. And Palmer and Kennedy go out with a couple of injuries there. So Phil Davis, definitely the biggest change in this one. I think he is one of the Giants' most important players, and with him and Heath Shaw in that back line, they're very, very difficult to actually score against. So I think the Giants are going to go down to Simmons Stadium. I know they had a poor one last week against the Crows. They're going to go down to Simmons Stadium, and they're going to knock over Geelong, because Geelong have not been playing good football the last couple of weeks. They lost to Collingwood, they lost to Carlton, against the Giants side that is hungry to improve and just win every week. I think that the Giants will get them. I think they'll knock them off. I'm backing them in 2 weeks in a row here. I reckon the Giants are going to get this one done. Now we move on to the Gold Coast Suns and Sydney. A lot of changes again for the Gold Coast. This is the third week in a row where they've had 6 changes or more. Cole Jasny, Archie, Rosa, Sexton, Miller and Joyce come in. Tape, Shaw, Shade, Russell, Cameron all been dropped, and Lemon's the only forced change there with the rib injury. And the Swans, no changes. Good win over North Melbourne last week. They'll get another win this week. I think Rodney Eade said Gold Coast could push for the top 8 here. Whether or not he's dreaming, I'm not quite sure, but I think that once they do get a lot of their players back and they kind of settle as a football club, they'll be very hard to beat the last 4 or 5 rounds of the season, the Gold Coast Suns. So they will be, pretty difficult, and I think if they can just somehow get a full list together for, a season, they'll be very good next year. If they can just keep a number of key players together rather than losing half their team. I think you have to compare them to Essendon, because that's how many players they've lost, but they can't replace them with top-up stars. So that's the only real downside for the Gold Coast Suns there in terms of, who do you compare them with their injury losses. But Swans for me to get this one done. Then we got the wooden spoon match. This is the actual wooden spoon match. Freo and Carlton, we thought we were going to play the wooden spoon match, but now this one looks like it's on the cards. Fremantle, Mundy, Tucker and Apeness come in. Langdon, DeBoer and Ibbotson goes out with a wrist injury. Big out Ibbotson there. And for the Bombers, Merritt, Hams and Leuenberger come in. Jamar's been dropped. James Kelly has been rested. Now, James Kelly's in all-Australian form. For a bloke who half-retired last year for Geelong, got the call up as a top-up player, is now in somewhat all-Australian form, and you're resting him for a game that you could win. Why would you do that? I'm sure there's got to be an explanation, because, if you lose this by a kick, he plays, you win. So, it'll be a close one. I'm picking... Who am I picking? Who's the outsider here? I don't even know. I'm picking Fremantle at home. I think at home they'll get the first win. They haven't been playing too terribly. So they can just put it together for 3.5 quarters. I think, 3 quarters probably all you need against the Bombers this season. So if they can do it for 3 quarters, Freo might get the job done. Moving on to Sunday, Collingwood and Port Adelaide here. Sinclair, Cloak, McCaffer, Witts, Marsh, Goodyear come in. Cloak is named inside at centre half forward, so he will play. Darcy Moore, Taylor Adams and Fasolo go out. A couple of injuries there for the Pies. And for Port Adelaide, Austin, Broadbent, Carlisle and Archie come in. Homsch the only confirmed out at this stage for the Port Adelaide side. Now, I think Collingwood have been in some reasonably good form here. They're going to get another win here at home against Port. They should have won against the Dogs last week, only lost because of injuries. So I think if they don't have 4 players on the bench and they can maintain that consistency like they did last week, they will beat Port Adelaide by about 4 or 5 goals here. I think that they'll get the job done very nicely. I think go the Pies in this one. They will get it done. Now moving on, Western Bulldogs and the West Coast Eagles. This is a big game. This is probably match of the round here. This is the Dogs at Etihad Stadium. Once again, they're going to be a very tough side to beat. Can the Eagles win on the road is again another question for the Dogs. Honeychurch, Minson and Williams come into that extended squad. Yo, Gaff and Lucas also into that extended squad. You expect maybe Gaff to play and possibly Yo as well to come into that side, so a couple of changes could be looming for the West Coast Eagles. The Dogs, you can't go past them at Etihad Stadium. I know the Eagles have been okay on the road, but they beat Port Adelaide, but they're not a top 8 side. If they can't beat top 8 sides on the road, West Coast, they lose this game, I am guaranteeing you they will not be top 4, and they will probably not win an away final, so they would want to make sure they get home finals. The West Coast Eagles here. Now we've got the Crows and the Saints, the final game of the round, just to finish it up. Mackay, Laird and Crouch into that 25, so probably no changes for the Crows there. And then for the Saints, Hugh Goddard, that is. Tommy Lee, Jake Billings and Jimmy Webster come in for Sam Fisher, who's out with a hamstring. Disappointing there. See Fisher go out, so I think that's why Goddard will come into that side for the Saints. The Crows will get it done. It's at the Adelaide Oval. They might win big. They tend to do that at home, especially against smaller sides like the Saints, who are still on the improve. If they can win, if they can pull up an upset here, St Kilda, I think that they're definitely going to be finals contenders next year, or at least close to finals contenders next year. So we'll see them make that jump next year. But that is it for the round preview. I think my tips are on the screen if you want to know what they are, and definitely going to be another big round of footy. I'm hoping the Tigers get over the line tonight. Please, Tigers, please get over the line against North Melbourne at Bloodstone Arena in the first Friday night Tassie game. So we'll see how that goes tonight. Other games I'm looking forward to is Stevie J returning to Geelong. I totally didn't even mention that. And then the Dogs and the Eagles. So big games, big round of footy. Let's wait and see what happens. And I'll see you guys on Monday for the wrap-up. Bye-bye.